Okay, so I just did a 17-minute Ustream broadcast about Gideon's visit to Scottish Rite today, but I apparently didn't save it as a recording, so only if you were watching live did you get a chance to see it. Um, so I'll start over. A little bit of background for Gideon, for anybody that's watching this that doesn't know. He suffered an injury when he was born. It's called a brachial plexus injury. Basically, what happened was the nerves that connect your shoulder to your spine, they were ripped from the spinal column, and so his arm was partially paralyzed and has been that way since he was born. We've been going to Scottish Rite since he was about 7 weeks old. They've been doing regular follow-ups. We've been doing regular therapy to get as much what they call spontaneous recovery out of that arm as possible. We made really good progress since we started. It used to just lay there limp, but now he can use it, and it's what our specialists call fully functional, or it's not fully functional, but functional. His injury is what they call, I can't remember if it's fully involved or what they call it, but basically it's all the nerves were damaged and it affects his arm from the top of his shoulder to his fingertips. So anyway, today's visit to Scottish Rite, Lindsay and I thought that we were going to go in to be talking about a surgical option. Basically, the surgical option is where they take, it's called a tendon transfer. Basically, they take a portion of his lat muscle, one of the four. He takes a portion of the lat muscle, strap it around the front of his upper arm, and then that gives him what they call external rotation. Right now, Gideon can move his arm up like this, his left arm up like this, but the humeral head, which is the ball that goes into your shoulder blade, it gets stuck. There's a bony protrusion, and it catches on the shoulder blade, and you can't, I mean, physically can't, extend your arm any further past that. So what you have to do is move your arm this way. It's called external rotation, and push it up. Gideon does not have the ability to do that. What we've been working on this whole time is shoulder position, basically the head of the humeral head relative to the scapula, making sure that those two things were in alignment, making sure that they move as coordinated as possible. Right now, one or the other moves out of sync, and so when he raises his arm and it gets to a certain point, instead of being able to rotate his shoulder in the socket, his scapula pushes out and moves from a 1-to-1 movement to a 2-to-1 movement. Anyway, that's all technical stuff that nobody really cares about. Get to the update. Okay, I'm getting that. So we went in today, or we went in with a list of questions, ranging from what do we do, is there any other therapeutic options we can go through? Is there any, then what's the surgery going to be, and then what happens post-op? So let me start with let me start by saying that there was incredibly good news across the board today. It was a great visit. So let me start with the therapy questions that we had. I asked about some constraint-induced therapy, basically more or less taping his right arm to his side while we do therapy so that he's forced to use his left arm. The therapist at Scottish Rite said that they have better luck with what they call bimanual use, which is anything that forces the child to use both hands to do an activity. Comb your hair, open a drawer, pick up a ball that's too big for one hand. Any of those activities, any of those activities that require two hands, they have better luck. And it has to do with the intensity of those activities, not necessarily the frequency of the activity. They also she was also telling us about some therapy boot camps, more or less. They're 6 hours a day for 2 weeks, 6 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. But those are more geared toward school-age children, so that's maybe something we'll look at before Gideon goes to kindergarten. We also asked about a garment called a Theratogs garment. I'll try and put a link, over here, so you can look at that. But basically, it kind of functions like external muscles. You put on the vest, and there's these Velcro straps, and you position the arm or limb or whatever where you need it to go. what she said is that there hasn't been enough research to quantify the gains in using a Theratox garment. So in their program, they only use modalities that are proven by significant research and backed up by significant research. So she said, if we wanted to do that, that'd be on our own, but not. Excuse me, I'm in the shed. So she said, but there's no evidence of significant benefit. So it'd just be, if we wanted to spend the money, go ahead. But obviously, we don't want to do that. So then after that, that was about 15 minutes, and then she still hadn't gotten a chance to. This will probably be a 2-part video, by the way. She hadn't got a chance to even observe Gideon yet because I was really grilling her with some of these questions. So then the doctor came in, and she said we were talking along, and we were saying, okay, we expect to talk about surgery today and all that kind of good stuff, and she was watching Gideon pretty closely, and I was kind of grilling her the whole time too, just to know what to expect. But she had some really excellent things to say about Gideon's functionality and the way his arms were moving and all that kind of good stuff. So she said that she was very impressed with his shoulder, his humerus scapula positioning. She said those were in very good positions. She said the muscles were good and supple. Basically, that we kept him loose enough to continue working with him and be able to just watch him as we moved along to address a surgical option. Some things that she noticed were he has full passive external rotation, which means he doesn't have the active ability to take his arm and do like this. He can't do that. But when I do his stretching, I can pin his elbow to his side and push his hand all the way down to the floor. That's the stretch that I do, and try it at home. It's pretty tough. And I told her, I drive Gideon really hard when I do his stretching because it's going to be better for him in the long run if I do that. Yeah, he cries, but I play the bad guy with stretching, and Mom gets to comfort, which is totally fine with me. So she was impressed with that. She said she was very impressed with the fact that he had full supination because his injury, like I said, goes shoulder to fingertip. And supination this is pronation, palms down. This is supination, and that motion is very hard for a brachial plexus patient to do because it requires some of the similar muscles that are required for external rotation. So she was very impressed with that. She was very impressed with the way that he was working his fingers, and then he had some like goldfish or a toy or something in his right hand, and then he took his passy out of his mouth with his left hand. That's called elbow flexion, and she was really, really pleased to see how much elbow flexion he had, wrist flexion and extension as well. So she was really impressed to see those things, and she gave us a really good compliment. He said, "You guys are doing what you need to do at home, so that's really good. He looks really good." So then we talked a little bit about what's going on. I'm gonna have to cut this video off in a minute and post another part. Then we talked a little bit about what's going on between his humerus, that's the upper arm bone, and his scapula. Basically, there's what she called an imbalanced motion. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and start a new one.